From creatures with transparent heads to mammals that lay eggs, the natural world is home to some truly bizarre life forms. While some animals are odd due to their appearance, others behave in ways that challenge everything we thought we knew about biology. These 10 animals stand out as the strangest living beings ever discovered. And yes, they're all very real. Below, we count down the top 10 strangest animals in the world, ranked not just for how weird they look, but for how utterly unbelievable their existence seems. Native to Australia and New Guinea, the frilled lizard is a master of dramatic defense. At rest, it appears like an ordinary reptile, blending into the forest floor or tree bark. But when threatened, it turns into something out of a science fiction movie. The lizard flares a large, colorful frill around its neck, resembling a lion's mane or a blooming flower, and stands on its hind legs to flee in a comical yet effective display. This frill, which can reach up to 30 centimeters in diameter, is supported by long spines of cartilage and can be rapidly extended thanks to powerful neck muscles. The sudden burst of color and noise often scares predators long enough for the lizard to escape. Despite its fierce appearance, the frilled lizard is harmless to humans and relatively shy. It lives primarily in trees, coming down only to hunt. Its diet consists mainly of insects, spiders, and small vertebrates. It waits silently, then ambushes its prey with speed and precision. Interestingly, this strange lizard gained international fame when it appeared in Jurassic Park, where a fictional version of it was shown spitting venom. Though real frilled lizards don't spit or have venom, their prehistoric look certainly justifies the comparison. They reproduce by laying clutches of up to 14 eggs buried in the soil. Hatchlings emerge fully formed and are capable of using their frills right away. Although frill use is mainly defensive, some believe males may also use them to intimidate rivals or impress females during mating season. Frilled lizards aren't endangered, but they do face threats from habitat loss and predators like feral cats. Nevertheless, they remain one of the most theatrical and surprising species in the wild. Deep beneath the surface of the ocean, far beyond the reach of sunlight, lives a creature so peculiar that it seems drawn from the pages of a fantasy novel. Meet the Dumbo octopus, named for the oversized, ear-like fins that resemble the ears of Disney's beloved flying elephant. But unlike Dumbo, these octopuses don't soar through the air. They float through the abyssal plains of the ocean in complete silence and grace. The Dumbo octopus isn't a single species, but rather a group of around 15 known species within the genus Grimpoteuthis. These animals are pelagic umbrella octopuses, and they are among the deepest-dwelling octopuses in the world. What makes the Dumbo octopus so fascinating, besides its cartoonish appearance, is how drastically it differs from the more familiar octopus species we see in tide pools or documentaries. While most octopuses crawl along the ocean floor or cling to rocks, Dumbo octopuses swim freely through the water column. They use their large ear-like fins, located just above their eyes, to gently propel themselves, and their arms, connected by a thin web of tissue, trail behind them like a parachute. Unlike many of their shallow water cousins, Dumbo octopuses do not produce ink. It would be pointless, after all, to squirt ink into the pitch-black void of the deep sea. Instead, their primary defense is their extreme habitat. Very few predators can survive the crushing pressure and frigid waters where they live. Dumbo octopuses are also smaller than you might think. Most are around 20 to 30 centimeters, 8 to 12 inches long, though a few species can grow larger. Their gelatinous bodies are soft and often translucent, and they appear almost ghost-like as they float through the water. With their gentle movements and otherworldly beauty, they have earned nicknames like parachute octopus and deep sea angel. Their diet consists primarily of small invertebrates, such as amphipods, copepods, and isopods, tiny crustaceans that live in the ocean depths. Because they live in a world where food is scarce and hard to come by, Dumbo octopuses are opportunistic feeders. They don't chase their prey. Instead, they hover and use their sensitive suckers to detect and capture whatever passes by. Once food is detected, they engulf it using their webbed arms like a net and consume it whole. One of the most fascinating aspects of the Dumbo octopus is its method of reproduction. Unlike many cephalopods that have distinct breeding seasons, females of this genus can carry multiple stages of eggs at the same time and are believed to be capable of reproducing year-round. In fact, some species appear to be able to fertilize and lay eggs without a specific trigger from environmental conditions. This flexibility is crucial in a place where conditions are relatively stable but harsh, and mates are few and far between. When a male Dumbo octopus finds a mate, he transfers spermatophores, packets of sperm, into the female using a specialized arm. The female then stores these spermatophores until she's ready to fertilize her eggs. She lays them on hard surfaces, like rocks or coral, where they will develop and eventually hatch into fully formed miniatures of the adult. There is no larval stage and no parental care. Once the eggs are laid, the mother's role is done. Even among marine biologists, Dumbo octopuses remain somewhat mysterious. Because of the depths at which they live, observing them in their natural habitat is a massive challenge. Most footage of them comes from remotely operated vehicles, ROVs, used in deep-sea exploration. These rare glimpses have fueled public fascination and scientific curiosity alike. Despite their deep-sea lifestyle, Dumbo octopuses have become surprisingly popular online. Footage of their slow, balletic swimming and innocent-looking faces has gone viral numerous times. They've been described as the cutest creature in the deep sea, a rare distinction in a realm filled with toothy, glowing, or downright terrifying life forms. Their role in popular media is growing too. From children's books to deep-sea exhibits in aquariums, the Dumbo octopus is becoming a symbol of the unknown wonders that remain hidden beneath the ocean's surface. So far, Dumbo octopuses aren't considered endangered, but like all deep-sea creatures, they are vulnerable to the effects of deep-sea mining and human interference. The fragile balance of their environment can be disrupted by activities that we're only beginning to understand. Protecting these creatures means protecting an entire layer of Earth's biosphere that remains largely unexplored. In the end, the Dumbo octopus reminds us that not all strange creatures are fierce or frightening. Some are soft, elegant, and quietly miraculous. They exist not to shock or threaten, but to challenge our assumptions about where life can thrive and in what form. To watch a Dumbo octopus glide through the deep ocean is to witness nature at its most mysterious, and perhaps at its most magical. At first glance, it's hard to tell whether the Angora rabbit is even a real animal. A giant ball of fluff with barely visible eyes and ears, it looks more like a stuffed toy or a whimsical creature from a fantasy movie than a living, breathing mammal. But the Angora rabbit is very much real, and it is one of the oldest and strangest domesticated rabbit breeds in the world. Originally from Turkey, the Angora rabbit has been bred for centuries for its exceptionally soft and silky wool, known as Angora wool. Legend has it that French sailors brought them back to Europe in the 18th century after encountering them in Ankara, then known as Angora, the same city that gave its name to the Angora goat and the Angora cat. From there, the rabbit's popularity spread quickly, especially among French nobility who valued the luxurious fiber for clothing and accessories. What makes the Angora rabbit truly bizarre isn't just its origin or historical fame, it is the overwhelming amount of fur it produces. The wool grows continuously and can reach absurd lengths, sometimes completely covering the rabbit's face, legs, and even its tail. In fact, if left ungroomed, the fur can become so dense and matted that it causes health problems or prevents the rabbit from moving properly. Some have been photographed looking like walking cotton balls, with only a small pink nose peeking through the fluff. There are several breeds of Angora rabbit, including English, French, giant, and satin varieties. Each has its own fur characteristics, body shape, and grooming needs. The English Angora is perhaps the most comically fluffy, often requiring daily brushing to prevent tangling. The giant Angora, on the other hand, is prized for its commercial wool yield and can produce up to 2.5 pounds, over 1 kilos, of wool per year. Angora wool is one of the softest natural fibers in the world, much finer than cashmere or alpaca. It's also incredibly warm, thanks to its hollow core structure that traps heat. Because of this, it's a popular material in the high-end textile industry. But unlike sheep's wool, Angora is harvested not by shearing, but by plucking or gently combing the loose fur that the rabbit naturally sheds. This process can be done every 3 to 4 months, and if done properly, it doesn't hurt the animal. Ethical breeders emphasize the importance of humane handling, ensuring the rabbits are not stressed or harmed. Despite their adorable appearance, Angora rabbits are not the easiest pets to keep. Their fur requires constant maintenance to avoid matting, overheating, or even accidental ingestion during grooming, which can lead to dangerous wool blockages in their digestive system. Regular trimming, a proper diet rich in fiber, and plenty of hydration are essential to keeping them healthy. Personality-wise, Angora rabbits are generally gentle and sociable. They enjoy being around humans and can even be trained to use a litter box. But their quiet demeanor and delicate care needs make them more suitable for experienced pet owners or breeders who understand their unique requirements. They're not ideal for young children or people who want low-maintenance animals. In addition to domestic settings, Angora rabbits have made frequent appearances in photography, art, and even viral internet content due to their surreal appearance. Images of freshly groomed Angoras next to their pre-haircut selves often circulate online, causing viewers to do double takes. It's almost impossible not to laugh or gasp at the transformation from a walking cloud to a sleek, slender bunny. Interestingly, in some cases, the Angora rabbit's appearance is so extreme that it's been mistaken for a hoax. In one viral photo, a rabbit appeared to be a perfect orb of white fluff, so exaggerated that viewers assumed it was digitally edited. But the image was very real and showcased just how far selective breeding can go in altering an animal's look for human purposes. However, the ethics of Angora wool production have come under scrutiny in recent years. Undercover footage from some commercial farms revealed cruel treatment, including improper plucking methods that caused distress and pain to the rabbits. These revelations led to widespread backlash, with several fashion brands banning Angora wool altogether unless sourced from certified humane producers. As a result, consumer awareness about ethical animal products has grown, and demand has shifted toward more responsible farms. Despite this controversy, the Angora rabbit remains a fascinating and beautiful example of human-animal interaction, both its positive potential and its possible consequences. Its very existence is a testament to what centuries of selective breeding can produce. An animal so alien-looking, so extravagantly fluffy, that it almost defies belief. Whether you see the Angora rabbit as a work of art, a symbol of indulgence, or just one of nature's oddball outcomes shaped by human hands, one thing is certain. It's one of the most uniquely strange animals on the planet. Underneath all that fluff is a gentle creature with a quiet disposition and a legacy that stretches across continents and centuries. As with many strange animals, what makes the Angora rabbit so bizarre is also what makes it beautiful. It challenges our expectations of what animals can look like and reminds us of the fine line between natural beauty and artificial enhancement. And when it comes to sheer visual impact, there's simply no rabbit like it in the world. Once roaming the wilds of Australia, Tasmania and New Guinea, the Tasmanian tiger, also known as the thylacine, was a creature so unique that even in death it continues to capture the imagination of scientists, cryptozoologists, and animal lovers alike. With a wolf-like body, tiger-like stripes, and a pouch like a kangaroo, this extinct marsupial defied classification. It looked like something cobbled together from multiple animals, because in a way it was. Despite the nickname Tasmanian tiger, the thylacine was not a tiger, nor was it a canine. It was a marsupial carnivore, the largest of its kind in modern history, and its closest living relatives are species like the numbat and the Tasmanian devil. The thylacine's resemblance to a dog, with its elongated snout, sharp teeth, and slender legs, is a case of convergent evolution. Nature's tendency to give unrelated species similar traits when they face similar environmental pressures. What truly made the thylacine stand out, however, were its stripes, bold black markings that stretched across its lower back and tail. These stripes gave the animal a menacing look, especially when it stood still and stared into the distance with its oddly calm eyes. The stripes were not just for show. They served as camouflage in the forests and grasslands where it hunted. The thylacine was mostly nocturnal and crepuscular, meaning it was most active during twilight and nighttime hours. It hunted small to medium-sized animals, including kangaroos, wallabies, birds, and even poultry once Europeans arrived. It wasn't a particularly fast runner, but its stealth and endurance likely made it a formidable stalker. But by the time European settlers fully colonized Tasmania in the 19th century, the thylacine's days were numbered. Blamed for attacking livestock, especially sheep, the thylacine was aggressively hunted. The Tasmanian government even placed bounties on its head. For each carcass delivered, farmers and hunters received payment. Combined with habitat loss, competition with introduced species like dogs, and disease, the thylacine population plummeted. The last known wild thylacine was killed in 1930. 6 years later, the last captive specimen, famously known as Benjamin, died alone in Hobart Zoo, likely due to neglect. Tragically, a mere 2 months before his death, the species was granted official protection by the government. Too little, too late. The footage of Benjamin pacing in his enclosure is haunting. Grainy black and white film shows a creature that, despite decades of persecution, still holds its dignity. He sniffs the air, stretches, walks slowly around the cage. That video is now one of the most iconic pieces of lost wildlife history. Yet the story of the thylacine didn't end there. Rumors of survival began almost immediately after its supposed extinction. Sightings were reported across Tasmania, often describing a striped animal with a stiff, low-hanging tail and unusual movement. Unlike a dog or fox, the thylacine moved with a peculiar hopping gait in its hind legs when alarmed, sometimes even standing upright for a better view. Some sightings came from credible sources: park rangers, scientists, and seasoned outdoorsmen. Over the decades, dozens of expeditions have tried to find evidence of the thylacine survival, setting up camera traps, collecting scat samples, even conducting DNA studies. So far, no hard evidence has surfaced, but the hope refuses to die. In 2021, a group of scientists reignited the conversation by proposing to de-extinct the thylacine using CRISPR gene editing technology and closely related marsupial species as genetic surrogates. The ambitious plan, while controversial, highlights just how significant the thylacine remains in the public imagination. It's not just about the animal itself, it's about undoing a mistake, reversing extinction, and acknowledging the consequences of human actions. The Tasmanian tiger has become a symbol, not just of loss, but of mystery and possibility. Its legacy lives on in conservation efforts, scientific projects, and countless documentaries and books. Museums around the world display thylacine skeletons, preserved specimens, and taxidermied bodies, drawing visitors who stare in awe at an animal that once walked the same paths as modern Australians. One reason the thylacine remains so haunting is that it vanished so recently. Extinctions that happened millions of years ago can feel abstract, but the thylacine disappeared within living memory. Some people alive today were born before the last thylacine died. That closeness makes its loss more painful and more real. Adding to the eeriness is the fact that the thylacine was unlike any other predator on Earth. It carried its young in a pouch, like a kangaroo. Its jaws could open at an extreme angle, nearly 120 degrees, giving it a ghoulish, gaping yawn. And its howl, described as a soft coughing bark, was unlike the growl or howl of any dog. Everything about it was familiar, yet foreign. Today, conservationists use the story of the thylacine as a cautionary tale. It reminds us how quickly an animal can vanish once it's labeled a nuisance. It teaches the importance of balancing agricultural progress with wildlife protection. And it warns against the hubris of assuming we understand an ecosystem well enough to reshape it without consequence. In some remote corners of Tasmania, believers still walk the wilderness at dawn, hoping to catch a glimpse of stripes moving through the mist. Whether or not the thylacine truly lives on, one thing is certain. It remains one of the strangest, most unforgettable animals the world has ever known. When European naturalists first laid eyes on the platypus, they were convinced it was a hoax. The creature looked like someone had stitched together a duck's bill, a beaver's tail, and an otter's body. In fact, when a preserved specimen was first sent to England in the late 18th century, scientists reportedly tried to find the stitches. Surely, they thought, this bizarre creature couldn't be real. But real it was, and still is. The platypus is one of the most unusual animals on Earth, a true biological enigma that breaks nearly every rule of what a mammal is supposed to be. Native to eastern Australia and Tasmania, this small, semi-aquatic creature lives in freshwater rivers, lakes and streams, where it dives, hunts and navigates with uncanny skill. Let's start with the basics. The platypus is one of only 5 extant species of monotremes, a rare group of mammals that lay eggs instead of giving birth to live young. The others are 4 species of echidnas, also found in Australia and New Guinea. That fact alone is strange. After all, mammals are supposed to give birth, but the platypus doesn't seem to care much about fitting into categories. Its bill is flat, rubbery and incredibly sensitive. Unlike a duck's rigid beak, the platypus bill is soft and pliable, covered in electroreceptors that allow it to detect the electric signals given off by the muscles and nerves of its prey. In fact, it can hunt with its eyes, ears and nostrils completely closed, relying solely on its bill to see underwater. It is one of the few mammals capable of electroreception, a trait more commonly associated with sharks and rays. Its webbed feet are perfect for swimming. While paddling, the platypus tucks its front legs out to the side like a frog and uses them as powerful oars, while its back feet and tail act as rudders. On land, the webbing retracts to reveal sharp claws that it uses for digging burrows along riverbanks. The tail of the platypus is wide and flat, used for storage and balance. It acts like a fat reservoir, helping the animal survive when food is scarce. The tail also aids in swimming and provides cushioning for its eggs when nesting. And yes, the platypus lays eggs, usually 1 to 3 at a time. After mating, the female retreats to an elaborate burrow she digs in the riverbank, often up to 20 meters long. There she curls around her eggs and incubates them with her body heat. Once they hatch, she nurses the blind, hairless babies, known as puggles, with milk that seeps through pores in her skin. She doesn't have nipples. The milk pools in grooves on her belly where the babies lap it up. As if that weren't strange enough, male platypuses are venomous. On each hind leg, they have a sharp spur that delivers venom capable of causing intense pain to humans. Pain so severe, it has been reported to be immune to morphine. During the breeding season, males use this weapon in fights with rivals. While not deadly to humans, the venom can disable predators and inflict lasting injuries. Despite all its oddities, the platypus is remarkably well adapted to its environment. It's mostly nocturnal and crepuscular, spending much of its time foraging underwater for small invertebrates, insects, larvae, and freshwater shrimp. It stores food in cheek pouches while diving and consumes it once it surfaces. A typical feeding dive lasts about 30 seconds, followed by a few moments on the surface before the next dive. Size-wise, platypuses are modest. Males measure about 50 centimeters, 20 inches in length, with females slightly smaller. They're covered in thick, waterproof fur, so dense it can trap a layer of insulating air, which keeps them dry and warm even in cold water. Their fur is dark brown on top and lighter underneath, blending well with riverbanks and murky waters. Culturally, the platypus holds a special place in Australia's identity. It appears on the country's 20-cent coin and is one of the most recognised national symbols. Yet it remained largely unknown to the rest of the world until the 19th century, when scientists began documenting Australia's bizarre native fauna. In recent years, platypuses have been the subject of cutting-edge scientific studies. Their genome was sequenced in 2008, revealing a fascinating combination of traits. Like reptiles, they have genes for egg-laying and venom production. Like birds, they lack teeth as adults, and like mammals, they nurse their young and grow fur. They even glow under ultraviolet light. Yes, when exposed to UV rays, their fur emits a bluish-green glow, a phenomenon only discovered in 2020. This combination of features makes the platypus one of the most important species for studying evolution. It serves as a living snapshot of a time when mammals were first diverging from reptilian ancestors. Scientists believe monotremes, like the platypus, split from the mammalian line roughly 250 million years ago, offering insight into how mammals evolved over time. Despite its resilience, the platypus faces growing threats from climate change, habitat destruction, and water pollution. Droughts, damming, and development have reduced the quality and availability of freshwater habitats. Conservationists are now pushing for greater protection of this iconic species, including the creation of platypus sanctuaries and more rigorous environmental controls on rivers and wetlands. In some ways, the platypus remains as much a mystery today as it was when Europeans first encountered it over 200 years ago. Its very existence challenges the boundaries we try to place around biology. Is it a mammal, a reptile, a little of both? The answer is yes, and more. Few animals have confounded, amazed, and delighted scientists and the public quite like the platypus. It's a reminder that nature doesn't follow our rules. It creates its own, and sometimes the result is a creature so strange, so wonderfully peculiar, that it seems to belong to another world entirely. In the icy waters of the Arctic, where the sun disappears for months and icebergs drift like frozen ghosts, swims one of the most mythical-looking creatures ever to exist, the narwhal. Often called the unicorn of the sea, the narwhal has captivated humans for centuries, thanks to its long, spiral tusk that looks like it belongs in a fairy tale. But this tusk isn't just decoration. It's a tooth, a weapon, a sensory organ, and perhaps the strangest tool in the animal kingdom. Narwhals are medium-sized toothed whales that live in the cold waters around Greenland, Canada, and Russia. They belong to the Monodontidae family, along with their close relatives, the beluga whales. While belugas are known for their round heads and expressive faces, narwhals are famous for one thing: the giant spiral tusk that can reach up to 3 meters, almost 10 feet, in length. The tusk grows from the left upper canine tooth of most males, emerging straight through the upper lip and spiraling counterclockwise like a corkscrew. In rare cases, females can also grow tusks, and some males even grow two. The sight of a narwhal with two massive protruding horns is so surreal that it is no wonder ancient sailors believed they were seeing sea unicorns. For centuries, narwhal tusks were sold as unicorn horns in medieval Europe, often for astronomical prices. Kings and queens bought them as magical relics, said to detect poison and cure disease. In reality, they were looking at the tooth of a shy Arctic whale. But what is the tusk really for? For years, scientists thought it was used in combat. Males jousting during mating season, trying to impress females or establish dominance. And while tusk battles do occur, more recent research has revealed something even more fascinating. The narwhal's tusk is filled with sensory nerves. Incredibly, this exposed tooth can detect changes in water temperature, pressure, and salinity. It may even help narwhals track prey or navigate their icy environment. Imagine having a front-facing antenna on your face that can read the ocean like a scanner. Narwhals are essentially swimming sonar towers. Narwhals are typically between 3.5 and 5.5 meters long, 11 to 18 feet, with males generally larger than females. Their coloration is beautiful and strange, a mottled grey and white pattern that helps them blend into Arctic waters and sea ice. They lack a dorsal fin, a feature believed to help them swim beneath ice sheets, and their heads are rounded with a small beak and a subtle smile that gives them an almost gentle appearance. Despite their mythical reputation, narwhals are very real and surprisingly elusive. Narwhals are also highly social animals, traveling in pods that typically consist of 10 to 20 individuals, though larger groups of hundreds have been observed during migrations. They communicate with a series of whistles, clicks, and pulsing sounds, creating a rich underwater soundscape. Like their beluga cousins, narwhals are sometimes called the canaries of the sea for their vocal abilities. During summer, narwhals migrate to shallow coastal bays, where they are easier to observe and sometimes hunted by indigenous Inuit communities. Narwhal hunting has been a traditional practice for thousands of years, providing meat, blubber, and tusks that hold cultural and spiritual significance. Today, hunting is regulated and limited, with respect to both tradition and conservation. But narwhals face more serious threats from climate change. As Arctic sea ice continues to shrink, their habitat is changing rapidly. Narwhals rely on thick ice for protection from predators like orcas and humans. They also depend on stable ice conditions to navigate and find food. Melting ice means more shipping traffic, more noise pollution, and more stress on these sensitive creatures. Another danger is ice entrapment, when sudden shifts in weather trap narwhals beneath freezing water with no breathing holes. Entire pods have been lost in such events, often discovered frozen beneath sheets of solid ice. Because they are so difficult to study in the wild, much about narwhal behavior remains mysterious. They're hard to track, hard to tag, and rarely seen up close. Most of what we know comes from a combination of acoustic monitoring, satellite tagging, and the knowledge of indigenous communities who have lived alongside them for generations. In recent years, narwhals have become a symbol not just of mystery, but of climate fragility. They are barometers of a vanishing world, a sign of how quickly ecosystems are changing in the planet's coldest corners. Their survival is tied to ice, and as the ice disappears, so too might the creatures that depend on it. Yet, despite the challenges they face, narwhals continue to thrive in some of the harshest conditions on Earth. They are living proof that nature has no limits when it comes to design. What other animal has evolved a giant sensory sword from a tooth? What other whale can glow with legend and science at the same time? The narwhal is not just a curiosity, it is a living reminder of how much we still don to know about the oceans. There's magic in that mystery, And every time one of these creatures rises silently from the deep, breaking the surface with its spiral tusk glistening in the cold light, it feels as if the myth of the unicorn was real all along, just underwater. In the dense, shadowy rainforests of Madagascar, there lives a creature so odd and unsettling that local legends claim it brings death just by pointing at you. With its large yellow eyes, bat-like ears, messy black fur, and an eerily long, skeletal middle finger, the ai is quite possibly the strangest primate on the planet and one of the most misunderstood. The ai is a species of lemur, though at first glance you'd be forgiven for thinking it came from another branch of the evolutionary tree entirely. It doesn't resemble the graceful ring-tailed lemurs most people are familiar with. Instead, it looks like a Halloween decoration come to life, a mix between a gremlin, a possum, and some sort of gnarled forest spirit. Yet beneath its creepy appearance lies one of nature's most fascinating survival strategies. The ai's most famous feature is its middle finger, a thin, elongated, flexible digit that it uses to tap on trees, listen for insect movement inside the wood, then pry out grubs with uncanny precision. This hunting technique, known as percussive foraging, is unique among primates and mirrors the behavior of a woodpecker more than any other mammal. The ai taps rapidly, up to 8 times per second, listening for the hollow sounds of larvae tunnels beneath the bark. Once it locates its prey, it uses its rodent-like incisors to gnaw a hole, then inserts that creepy finger to hook and extract the insect inside. It's a highly effective and rather gory feeding method, allowing the ai to exploit a food source that many other animals can't reach. This adaptation is especially important in Madagascar's competitive and sometimes resource-scarce environments. But the ai isn't just about bugs. It also eats fruit, seeds, nectar, and fungi, making it an omnivore. At night, because the ai is nocturnal, it emerges from its hidden nest high in the trees and begins its strange, methodical search for food. It's solitary by nature, and its enormous eyes help it navigate the darkness with ease, often aided by an acute sense of hearing. Everything about the ai is specialized and unusual. It has continuously growing incisors, just like rodents, making it the only primate with this feature. Its ears are large and mobile, capable of picking up faint sounds in the still of the night. Its tail is long and bushy, longer than its body, and helps with balance and warmth while navigating tree branches. Its skeletal hands, especially the flexible third finger, allow for movements and manipulations that no other lemur or monkey can replicate. Despite its uniqueness, the ai has a tragic reputation. In many regions of Madagascar, it is viewed as a harbinger of death or misfortune. According to some traditional beliefs, if an ai points its long finger at you, you will soon die. Others believe the animal sneaks into homes at night and pierces human hearts in their sleep. Because of these superstitions, the ai is often killed on sight by villagers, despite being harmless to humans. This fear, combined with deforestation and habitat loss, has placed the ai in danger. While not critically endangered, it is listed as endangered by the IUCN. Conservation efforts are ongoing, but the creature's appearance continues to work against it. It is one of the few species that seems to suffer directly from how it looks, not just how it lives. Interestingly, the ai's bizarre traits also make it scientifically invaluable. It represents an extreme example of evolutionary adaptation, showing how isolated environments like Madagascar can produce completely unique solutions to survival. Studying its behavior, anatomy, and genetics has helped scientists better understand primate evolution, mammalian intelligence, and ecological specialization. In captivity, ai's can live for over 20 years, and several zoos and conservation centers around the world now house small populations. These programs not only help maintain genetic diversity, but also give researchers a chance to observe their behavior more closely. Captive IAs are curious, intelligent, and playful, sometimes showing signs of problem-solving and tool use. Interestingly, despite their ghostly reputation, IAs have become a symbol of curiosity and conservation in some circles. Their image is used to raise awareness about the fragile biodiversity of Madagascar, and conservationists have worked hard to shift public perception. Some villages now participate in educational programs that explain the ecological importance of the II and dispel harmful myths. Still, there's no denying that the II's strangeness is part of its enduring appeal. Its outlandish features and eerie habits have made it a star of wildlife documentaries and a favorite among fans of the weird and wonderful. Few animals so perfectly balance the line between creepy and captivating. In a world increasingly dominated by uniformity and predictability, the II reminds us that evolution is not always elegant or beautiful. It is innovative. And sometimes that innovation results in a bug-eyed, gangly-fingered tree goblin that taps its way through the night, defying expectations and challenging our ideas of what nature should look like. To encounter an II in the wild is to look into the eyes of evolution itself, raw, strange, and profoundly original. In the depths of the ocean, where light disappears and pressure crushes most forms of life, exists a creature so bizarre, so alien-looking, that it has earned the unofficial title of the world's ugliest animal. Meet the blobfish, a gelatinous, flabby, deep-sea dweller that has baffled scientists and entertained the internet with its almost cartoonishly sad appearance. But here's the twist. The blobfish only looks like a melted wax sculpture when it's out of its natural habitat. In the crushing pressure of the deep ocean, it actually looks surprisingly normal. The blobfish, Cycrolutes marcadus, lives at depths of 600 to 1,200 meters, roughly 2,000 to 4,000 feet, off the coasts of Australia, Tasmania, and New Zealand. At these depths, the pressure is more than 100 times greater than at the surface. Most animals that live here have adapted in extraordinary ways, and the blobfish is no exception. What makes it so unique, aside from its appearance, is how it deals with the immense pressure of its environment. Instead of having a gas-filled swim bladder like many fish, which would collapse at such depths, the blobfish has a body composed mostly of gelatinous tissue. This tissue is slightly less dense than water, which allows the blobfish to float just above the seafloor without expending energy on swimming. Its body is soft, squishy, and nearly boneless. This low-density composition gives the blobfish its natural buoyancy and helps it conserve energy, vital in a place where food is scarce. But it also means the blobfish can't chase prey or move quickly. Instead, it waits. It's a master of stillness. As debris, microscopic organisms, or small animals drift past, it simply opens its mouth and sucks them in. So what happens when you bring a blobfish to the surface? That's where the tragedy begins. When a blobfish is hauled up from the deep via trawling nets, it undergoes a catastrophic pressure change. The sudden decompression causes its body to lose all structure. The gelatinous tissue that worked perfectly at high pressure expands and collapses, leaving behind the iconic droopy, slimy mass with bulging eyes and a downturned mouth. This is the face that launched 1,000 memes. The sad, globby creature with the unmistakable expression of quiet disappointment. In 2013, the blobfish was voted the world's ugliest animal by the Ugly Animal Preservation Society, an organization dedicated to promoting awareness of unattractive but ecologically important creatures. Since then, it has become a mascot for misunderstood animals everywhere. But to judge the blobfish by its looks is deeply unfair. It's a highly specialized organism, perfectly adapted to a hostile, high-pressure world. Its features aren't flawed, they're functional. What seems grotesque on land is graceful in the deep. Physically, blobfish are usually around 30 centimeters, 12 inches long. Their skin is pale pink or grey. Their eyes are small and set wide apart, and they have no scales. Their mouths are large and can open wide to capture whatever organic matter happens to drift by: crustaceans, sea urchins, and other invertebrates. Blobfish are part of a larger family called Cycrolutidae, or fathead sculpins, which includes several deep-sea species with similar body plans. While many relatives are also gelatinous and slow-moving, the Cycrolutes marcadus stands out because of how frequently it is caught by deep-sea trawlers, and how strange it looks when it dies. Very little is known about their reproduction or behavior in the wild, mainly because no one has ever seen one alive in its natural habitat. We know they are solitary and likely reproduce via external fertilization, laying eggs on the ocean floor. Whether or not they care for their young is still a mystery. Sadly, because of their habitat and the method by which they're caught, blobfish face growing threats. They aren't targeted directly by fishermen, but they're often caught as bycatch, unwanted catch hauled up in deep-sea trawling operations. These destructive nets scrape along the ocean floor, catching anything in their path and destroying delicate ecosystems in the process. The blobfish's role in these deep-sea environments is still being studied, but like all scavengers, they likely help recycle organic matter, keeping the ecosystem balanced. Their slow metabolism and passive feeding strategy make them efficient energy conservers, an evolutionary masterpiece in a world of scarcity. Despite being labeled ugly, the blobfish has become a pop culture icon. You can now find plush toys, stickers, T-shirts, and even tattoos dedicated to this gooey legend. Its drooping face and tragic aura have turned it into a symbol of awkward charm, resilience, and the idea that beauty is not the only thing worth protecting. In recent years, marine biologists and environmental activists have begun using the blobfish to draw attention to the fragility of deep-sea ecosystems. Because these areas are out of sight, they are often out of mind and therefore vulnerable to exploitation. The blobfish reminds us that there is life in the dark, silent parts of the world that we barely understand. Every animal on this list is strange in its own way, but the blobfish is perhaps the most misunderstood. It is not ugly because of poor design. It is ugly because we ripped it out of the environment it was never meant to leave. In its own world, it's perfectly adapted, perfectly functional, and perfectly suited to the life it leads. So the next time you see that sad, melting face on your screen, remember, the blobfish isn't a joke. It's a reminder that evolution works in ways we can't always appreciate, and that beauty, especially in nature, is more than skin deep. In the ancient lakes of Mexico City, among floating gardens and quiet canals, lives a creature so enchanting, so bizarre, that it seems like it should belong in a video game or a fantasy novel. With its wide, permanent grin, feathery gills sprouting from the sides of its head, and the ability to regrow entire limbs, the axolotl is not just one of the strangest animals in the world, it is also one of the most fascinating. Pronounced axulatul, this amphibian is a type of salamander, but unlike most of its relatives, the axolotl doesn't undergo metamorphosis. While typical salamanders begin life in water and then transform into land-dwelling adults, the axolotl remains in its larval stage for its entire life. It never loses its gills, never crawls onto land, and never stops swimming. This condition is called neoteny, and the axolotl is perhaps the most famous example of it in the animal kingdom. At first glance, the axolotl's appearance is almost comical. It has a long, flat head with lidless eyes, a wide mouth that gives it a constant smile, and 3 external gill stalks on each side of its neck that look like soft, feathery antlers. Its body is slender, its legs are tiny, and its long tail ripples behind it as it swims. They come in a variety of colors. Wild axolotls are typically dark with gold speckles, but captive-bred ones can be pink, white, golden, or even black. But the axolotl's cuteness hides one of the most remarkable biological superpowers in nature: regeneration. These animals can regrow not just lost limbs, but also spinal cords, parts of their brains, jaws, hearts, and even eyes. And they don't just regrow the structure, they regenerate it perfectly, with no scar tissue. Scientists have amputated the same limb multiple times on the same axolotl, and it regrows again and again. Because of this, the axolotl has become a superstar of scientific research. Scientists study it to understand how regeneration works at the molecular level, hoping to one day apply these lessons to human medicine. Could humans one day regenerate damaged organs or spinal tissue? The axolotl might hold the key. In its natural habitat, historically the lakes of Xochimilco and Chalco near Mexico City, the axolotl is a top-level aquatic predator, feeding on insects, worms, crustaceans, and small fish. It uses a kind of suction feeding, opening its mouth quickly and creating a vacuum that pulls in food. Despite its goofy expression, it's a skilled hunter. Unfortunately, in the wild, the axolotl is in serious trouble. The lakes and canals it once thrived in have been heavily polluted, drained, and overtaken by urban development. Introduced species like tilapia and carp eat axolotl eggs and compete for food. As of recent assessments, wild axolotls are considered critically endangered, with only a few hundred individuals believed to remain in nature. Ironically, while wild populations are declining, axolotls are thriving in captivity. They are bred in labs, aquariums, pet stores, and even school science classes all over the world. Captive axolotls are relatively easy to care for and breed, making them one of the most common amphibians in research settings. In fact, the axolotl has become something of a cultural icon. It appears in video games, anime, toys, and memes. With its permanent smile and peaceful demeanor, it has captured the imagination of people across the globe. In Mexico, the axolotl holds deep cultural and mythological meaning. In Aztec legend, the god Xolotl, brother of Quetzalcoatl, transformed into a salamander to escape sacrifice, thus giving birth to the axolotl. Its name comes from the Nahuatl word axolotl, meaning water monster or water dog. As a symbol of both rebirth and resistance, the axolotl is a national treasure. Conservation efforts are underway to preserve the species in the wild, including creating protected habitats in the canals of Xochimilco, removing invasive species, and working with local communities to build sustainable ecosystems. But preserving the axolotl isn't just about saving a cute animal, it is about protecting an entire network of life that depends on clean water, biodiversity, and environmental balance. The axolotl's decline mirrors the environmental degradation of its entire region. Saving the axolotl means saving a piece of Mexico's heritage and one of the most extraordinary creatures ever to evolve. One of the most surprising discoveries about axolotls in recent years is that, under certain conditions, they can be induced to metamorphose. In captivity, with exposure to thyroid hormones, axolotls can lose their gills, develop lungs, and adapt to a terrestrial lifestyle. They don't do this in the wild, likely because it would decrease their chance of survival. But the potential is there. Even in their refusal to grow up, axolotls remain full of potential. So what is it that makes the axolotl so strange and so lovable? It might be its unusual life cycle. It might be its regenerative powers. It might just be that silly smile and those floating pink gills. Whatever it is, this little aquatic oddball has swum into our hearts and into the halls of science with unmatched charm. The axolotl isn't just an oddity. It's a biological marvel, a medical mystery, a cultural symbol, and a creature of legend. In a world that constantly demands change and evolution, the axolotl thrives by staying the same, forever young, forever strange, and forever unforgettable. In the damp, dark soils of northeastern North America, hidden beneath swamps, wet meadows, and forest floors, lives a creature that looks like something out of a science fiction nightmare. It's small, blind, and nearly hairless on its face. But what sets it apart is the 22 pink fleshy tentacles radiating from its snout, twitching and writhing like the fingers of a tiny alien. This is the star-nosed mole, the strangest-looking mammal on Earth, and arguably one of the most extraordinary. At first glance, the star-nosed mole is not a very impressive creature. It's roughly the size of a hamster, about 15 to 20 centimeters, 6 to 8 inches long, with coarse, dark fur, paddle-like feet for digging, and a short, thick tail used for fat storage. It spends most of its life underground, rarely seen by humans, and is completely blind. But the moment it pokes its head out of the soil, you're greeted with a sight that's unforgettable. A star-shaped nose composed of 22 highly sensitive appendages, each covered in thousands of touch receptors, called Eimer's organs. These tentacles are not used for smell. They are organs of touch and perception, making the star-nosed mole's snout the most sensitive tactile organ in the animal kingdom. Scientists estimate that the star S25,000 Eimer S organs allow the mole to process tactile information at lightning speed, so fast, in fact, that it can identify and consume prey in less than 0.2 seconds. That makes it the fastest known eater in the mammal world. So how does it work? The mole scurries through its tunnels, pressing its nose star against everything it encounters. Each tentacle acts like a separate finger, scanning the environment in fractions of a second. When it finds a worm, insect, or small crustacean, it identifies it by shape and texture almost instantly and swallows it in a blur. This system is so precise that the mole's brain processes input from the star in the same way that humans process visual information from their eyes. One tentacle pair, positioned at the center of the star, functions as a fovea, similar to the high-resolution center of the human retina. That central pair is used for the final, detailed identification of objects, effectively giving the mole a touch-based vision system in place of its non-functioning eyes. Beyond its unique hunting style, the star-nosed mole has evolved to be semi-aquatic, which is unusual among moles. It forages both underground and underwater, making it a rare dual-environment mammal. Its nostrils can close when submerged, and it can sniff for prey underwater by blowing bubbles and then re-inhaling them to detect chemical cues, an incredibly rare ability among mammals. The mole's powerful forelimbs are designed for digging and swimming. In fact, its entire body is shaped for maximum efficiency in movement through soil and water. Its thick, waterproof fur repels moisture, and its tail swells during winter, storing fat to help it survive when food is scarce. Star-nosed moles are solitary, territorial animals. They construct elaborate tunnel systems just below the surface, which can include nests, feeding zones, and underwater access points. They mate in early spring and produce a single litter of about 4 or 5 pups, which are born naked and blind but grow rapidly. As strange as they look, these moles are actually beneficial to ecosystems. By aerating the soil and consuming harmful insect larvae, they help maintain the health of wetland environments. Their role as both predator and prey contributes to a balanced food chain, although their own predators are few due to their speed and subterranean lifestyle. Despite their bizarre appearance, star-nosed moles are not endangered. They are relatively common throughout their range in the northeastern United States and eastern Canada, although they are rarely seen because of their underground lifestyle. They are perfectly adapted to cold, wet environments, and can even remain active under snow in winter, tunneling through frozen ground with ease. What truly makes the star-nosed mole one of the strangest animals in the world is not just its bizarre anatomy, but what that anatomy allows it to do. Its nose is a biological masterpiece, representing the pinnacle of tactile evolution. The speed and accuracy with which it processes information are unmatched among mammals, and its dual environment lifestyle makes it a unique case study for adaptation. To see a star-nosed mole is to confront just how wildly creative evolution can be. Its bizarre features challenge our expectations of what a mammal should look like or how it should behave. It reminds us that nature's solutions to survival are often weirder and more effective than anything humans could invent. In a world of lions, elephants, eagles, and whales, the star-nosed mole proves that even the smallest, strangest creatures deserve our attention and respect. It doesn't rely on strength, sight, or size, but on touch, speed, and a bizarre, beautiful biological tool that no other animal possesses. So yes, it might look like a tiny monster burrowing through the mud, but in the dark, wet tunnels of the earth, this little creature reigns supreme, touching the world faster than we can blink, thriving where others can't, and turning its strangeness into sheer evolutionary genius.